The story begins with a lone figure, an ordinary man, standing at the mouth of a vast, shadowed cave. The camera lingers on his hesitant posture, shoulders slightly hunched, hands clenched at his sides, before he takes the first step forward. The landscape around him is desolate, a barren stretch of rock and wind, as if the earth itself has rejected life in this place. The cave looms like an open maw, its darkness thick and impenetrable, swallowing the faint daylight that dares to creep near its edges. There is no dramatic music, no sudden jump scare, just the eerie, natural sounds of the wind howling through the cavern entrance, a low, mournful whistle that sounds almost like a warning. The man's breath is steady but shallow, his face obscured by shadow, making him an everyman, a stand-in for the audience. He could be anyone. He could be us. The camera work is deliberate, shaky, handheld, as if this is found footage, a recording of something that was never meant to be seen. The frame occasionally distorts, static flickering at the edges, suggesting interference from something beyond natural explanation. The narrator's voice, if there is one, is calm but grim, stating the inevitable. A man walked into this cave and was never seen again. This opening scene sets the tone for what follows, not just a horror story, but a fate. The cave is not just a location, it is an entity, a presence that watches, waits, and chooses. The man's decision to enter is framed not as bravery, but as inevitability, as if the cave has been waiting for him all along. The absence of dramatic flair makes it more unsettling. This is not a movie monster jump scare, but something far older, far colder. A disappearance that feels ordained. Theories begin here. Is the cave a gateway? A living thing? A place where time unravels? Or is it simply a void? A nothingness that erases those who enter? The man does not run, does not scream. He simply walks forward, as if compelled. And then, the darkness takes him. This is how horror works best, not with a bang, but with a slow, creeping certainty that something is wrong. By the time the man crosses the threshold, the audience already knows he is not coming back. The moment the man steps inside, the air changes. The wind from outside dies abruptly, replaced by a damp, suffocating stillness, as if the cave has inhaled, sealing him within its depths. His flashlight flickers to life, a frail beam cutting through the blackness, but the light doesn't travel far. It's as though the darkness resists it, swallowing the glow just a few feet ahead. His footsteps echo, but not in the way they should. The sound doesn't bounce back naturally. Instead, it distorts, stretching into something that resembles whispers, faint, indecipherable, yet unmistakably there. He pauses, listening. The whispers don't stop. If anything, they grow more distinct, murmuring just beyond the edge of his hearing, as if the cave itself is speaking. The walls are too smooth in places, too wrong, not carved by time or water, but by something else. His fingers brush against the stone, and for a second, it feels less like rock and more like skin, damp and yielding. He jerks his hand back. The flashlight wavers, and in that trembling light, something shifts in the periphery, a shadow that doesn't match his own. He tells himself it's nothing. Deeper in, the temperature drops sharply, his breath frosting in the beam of his light. The cave doesn't feel like a place anymore. It feels like a throat. The floor slopes downward, not in a natural incline, but in a way that suggests intention, as if the earth itself is guiding him toward something. Then the light catches something on the wall, scratches. No, not scratches. Writing. Symbols maybe, or words in a language that shouldn't exist. They're old, ancient, but the edges are sharp, as though they were carved yesterday. Or perhaps they were never carved at all. Perhaps they simply appeared, waiting for him to see them. His pulse hammers in his ears. He should turn back, He knows he should turn back, but he doesn't. The whispers grow louder, the flashlight flickers again, and then, from somewhere deep in the cave, something whispers his name. Not a voice he recognizes, not a voice that sounds human at all. The camera lingers on his face, wide-eyed, breath shallow, before the screen distorts, the signal breaks, and the scene cuts to black. The cave has him now. The deeper he goes, the more the cave breathes around him. The air is thick now, heavy with the scent of damp earth and something older, metallic like rusted iron, or the coppery tang of blood long dried. His flashlight, once a steady beam, has become erratic, pulsing weakly as if drained by the darkness itself. Each flicker stretches longer than the last, plunging him into total blackness for terrifying seconds before sputtering back to life. The whispers have shape now. They curl around his ears, words half-formed, syllables that almost make sense before dissolving again. Sometimes they sound like voices he knows, his mother calling him home, a childhood friend laughing, but twisted, wrong, as if something is peeling memories from his mind and playing them back corrupted. He clenches his jaw, tries to ignore them, but his hands are shaking. The walls press closer. The ceiling dips lower. He has to hunch forward, his back scraping against stone that feels strangely warm, almost alive. His fingers brush something wet, not water, something thicker, clinging to his skin like sap. When he raises his hand to the light, it's dark. Too dark to be water, too dark to be anything natural. A sound behind him, not a whisper this time, but a step. He whirls around, flashlight swinging wildly. The beam catches nothing but empty tunnel, but the air trembles, vibrating with something just beyond perception. The cave is no longer silent. There's a rhythm to it now, a slow, deliberate thud, like a heartbeat, or footsteps. He starts moving faster, breath coming in sharp gasps. The floor is uneven, sloping downward at an angle that feels unnatural, as if the cave is tilting beneath him. The symbols on the walls multiply, overlapping, spiraling into patterns that make his head ache when he looks at them too long. Some of them look like eyes, some of them look like mouths. Then the light dies completely. For 3 heartbeats, there's nothing, no sound, no light, just the crushing weight of the dark. When the flashlight surges back on, something is different. The tunnel ahead isn't empty anymore. A shape stands at the edge of the light, tall, too tall, limbs stretching at angles that don't make sense. It doesn't move, doesn't breathe, just watches. The man stumbles back, but the thing doesn't follow. It doesn't need to, because the cave is closing in behind him too, and the whispers are laughing now. The last flicker of his flashlight catches the glint of something wet along the cave walls, not water, but something darker, seeping from the stone like tears from a wound. The air is thick with the scent of it, metallic and sweetly rotten, filling his lungs until every breath feels like drowning. He tries to call out, but his voice doesn't come. The cave has stolen it. The thing at the edge of the light hasn't moved. It doesn't need to. The darkness around it pulses, alive and hungry, tendrils of shadow unspooling across the floor, creeping toward his boots. He stumbles back, but the ground gives way beneath him, not into empty air, but into something soft. His hands sink into the cave floor like wet clay, fingers brushing against things buried just beneath the surface. Bones, cold, smooth, and far too human. The whispers rise to a crescendo, no longer taunting, but commanding, a chorus of voices speaking in a language that predates words. The walls shudder. The thing in the dark takes a step forward, except it isn't stepping. It's unfolding, limbs splitting like fractured stone, its silhouette warping into something that should not be. The flashlight dies. This time it doesn't come back on. In the blackness, he feels the cave shift around him, the walls contracting like a throat swallowing. The air is gone. The sound is gone. There's only pressure, immense and inexorable, pressing in from all sides. He opens his mouth to scream, and the darkness pours inside. For a single, suspended moment, there's a sound like tearing fabric or tearing flesh. Then, silence. The camera, if it still rolls, captures nothing. No struggle, no final glimpse of the thing that took him. Only the empty cave, the walls now smooth and unmarked, as if they've already forgotten he was ever there. But if you listen closely, in the static between frames, you might still hear the whispers. And if you watch until the very end, you might notice, just before the screen cuts to black, the faintest impression of a hand, pressed against the inside of the stone, pushing, begging, then gone. Time passes differently here. The cave exhales, its damp breath settling over the scattered evidence of what once was. A dropped flashlight, its lens cracked. A film of disturbed dust where frantic footsteps once churned the earth. The lingering charge of fear in the air, static and sour. The walls have sealed themselves smooth again. The strange symbols faded like scars healing over. If you didn't know better, you'd think nothing had ever happened here. Days later, a search party arrives, their boots scuffing the threshold where the man last stood. Their voices bounce off the walls, too loud, too bright, shattering the cave's silence like an unwelcome intrusion. Their flashlight beams cut through the dark, clinical and impersonal, illuminating nothing but stone and shadow. They call his name. The cave swallows the sound whole. One of them pauses, running a gloved hand along the wall. "You hear that?" he mutters. The others don't answer, but if they'd listened closer, they might have recognized the hum beneath the rock. Not an echo, not the wind, but something like a voice, muffled and distant. "Help." The camera lingers on the cave's entrance as the search party leaves, their postures slumped in resignation. They'll mark him down as another tragedy, another mystery. They'll warn others to stay away. But as the last beam of light retreats, the lens catches something, just for a fraction of a second, before the screen dissolves into static. A silhouette, standing much deeper in the tunnel than any of them had ventured. Tall, too tall, and then black. The credits roll in silence. No music, no closure, just the quiet certainty that the cave is still waiting. It's always waiting. The search begins in daylight, but the cave swallows the sun whole. Flashlight beams cut through the gloom like surgical instruments, too clean, too bright for this place that thrives on shadows. The search party calls out, their voices bouncing off walls that absorb sound too quickly, as if the cave is hungry for their words too. They find his backpack first, the fabric damp, the straps torn, as though something had worried at them with teeth. One of the searchers, a woman with gloves too thin for the cave's chill, runs her fingers along the wall. Her light catches something, a handprint pressed deep into the stone, too large to be human, still warm. The radio crackles to life with static, and in the spaces between, a voice that isn't hers says, "Don't turn around." When she does, the camera catches only her flashlight clattering to the ground before the feed cuts. Days later, the official report will call it a tragedy, a collapse, a bear, something plausible. But the camera they recover tells a different story. Hours of empty footage, right up until the final frame. In that last second, just before the battery dies, something steps into view. It's wearing the missing man's face, but the eyes are all wrong, and the smile is worse. The screen goes dark. Somewhere, in a house that's suddenly too quiet, a viewer reaches to turn on the light. The bulb flickers. From the hallway, something whispers their name. Roll credits. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.